get underway. We have a great agenda here for you. Again, this topic of decarbonization was chosen by the members of the North American Collaborative, and they all voted and selected a number of topics that we'll be hitting here through the course of the year. And so we'll be having some guest speakers to kind of set the stage for us. We'll be talking about some of the North American efforts on decarb that have continued on from the last couple of SEM summits and some other things. We'll be sharing some North American Collaborative updates and then wrapping up. For your participation, we thank you so much for turning on your cams. We'll be definitely pinging you, like we said. Be sure to put messages in the chat. We'll be paying attention to that. And we'll also be having some breakout groups. And so in those, you can definitely get to know each other, as well as provide some input on some of the important work that we have in front of us, the decarbonization front. We already did our icebreaker. So let's get into setting the stage. We have 4 guest speakers. To start us off, we will have Jonah Eisen talking from ACEEE. Jonah?
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. So as Chad mentioned, my name is Jonah Eisen. I'm from ACEEE. I'm a researcher on the industry program, and I'm a liaison between ACEEE and the North American SEM Collaborative. And for the past year or so, I've been leading the research efforts with the collaborative. And this year, we released a paper in June. I think a lot of you on the call were maybe at the SEM Summit, so you might be familiar with it, but we released a paper on decarbonization, looking at how SEM can enable decarbonization in the US. And we chose this topic because decarbonization has obviously gotten a lot of attention over the last several years. And we know company all the way to federal agenda, aggressive climate plans, we know how important decarbonization is in achieving our climate goals. And so we spent the last year working on a paper, and the main kind of takeaway here is that SEM kind of has this well-packaged pre-existing framework for energy management that's rooted in education, operational behavioral measures, building organizational capacity that can also be applied to carbon management. Specifically, it can help identify opportunities for fuel switching, electrification, demand side management, on-site renewables, optimal use of batteries, so on and so forth. And it can actually help individual facilities strategically implement those solutions. So and that's a great finding, but we identified 3 main strategies to better incorporate decarbonization into SEM as it currently kind of exists today in the US. The first, working with utility regulators to update SEM mandates. So the current utility ratepayer model, most programs in the US, most SEM programs are utility ratepayer funded, and they are kind of exist within the confines of Public Utility Commission mandates, most of which in the US today do not really specifically talk about carbon for the most part. So we were suggesting to expand the PUC's mandates so that SEM practitioners can integrate carbon metrics into their programs. Now, we've seen some policy successes in the US, DC, Connecticut, a couple of other states over the past several years have kind of opened up their mandates to include the impacts of climate change. So that's helpful. The second strategy is to identify federal funding opportunities to support SEM development. So while this ratepayer model works, in some states where it may take a while to kind of update the PUC's mandates, or some states which may not necessarily be interested right now in including carbon, it would be really helpful to have kind of a federal pool of money that SEM programs can specifically use for integrating carbon into their programs. Canada has a great example, the Green Industrial Facilities and Manufacturing Program that was recently kind of introduced. That's a great kind of top-down example of having a pool of money specifically for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and applying them to SEM programs. Third and finally, we want to update reporting and accounting practices to include carbon and greenhouse gases. So if we can update national standards and protocols and guidelines on how to do that and how to effectively incorporate decarbonization into SEM, that would be great. DOE's 50,001 Ready program, over the past year introduced a decarbonization tool. So resources like that would be really great to kind of amplify and expand on in the US. So these three strategies were kind of meant to increase both the breadth of SEM in the States and also the depth of the programs in terms of offering more holistic solutions for both energy and carbon management alongside one another. And the paper was definitely not meant to have all the answers. I think decarbonization is still kind of this new open water that we're all on our own ships and on a shared ship trying to navigate together. So didn't have all the answers, but hopefully it brought up some of the important kind of policy and programmatic questions that we as the SEM community should really be thinking about right now to kind of achieve our collective goals. So that's kind of the work we've been doing, and we already have some research geared up for the next year, which we're thinking about topics and developing that. And I will drop a link to the paper in the chat for whoever is interested, and you can also reach out directly to me if you have any additional questions. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Jonah. And by the way, what does it cost to download this paper?
What does it cost?
Yeah, it's got to be hundreds of dollars, right? To be able to get this thing. It's
yeah. It's the paycheck goes a couple $1 million if you have it on tap.
okay.
Yeah, no, it is free to the masses, and you can share it around.
Outstanding. Okay, well, great. Well, I expect all of us to take a look at it. If you haven't already, many of us are looking at it right when it came out. It's an outstanding resource. So transitioning to other next more outstanding resources. If you remember the time before the CE SEM minimum elements, it was a time when we had to do a lot of explaining about what SEM was all about. And CE did an amazing job of really leading the way to create a landmark document that really has been a reference document ever since. And since doing that, they've not rested on their laurels and have been working on new possibilities. And so with that, Walker's going to be sharing some of their latest work.
Awesome. Thanks, Chad.
You bet.
Yeah, and I would also just say it was great Jonah went first, because a lot of the things that you mentioned as things we want to be working on, consortium is planning to work on. And just this here are outcomes that I can touch on briefly from our industry partner meeting. But I just emphasize the point that I think you all understand. Decarbonization and energy efficiency programs and sort of those constraints and limitations that Jonah just described, that's not unique to SEM programs. That's across the whole portfolio of programs that energy efficiency program administrators offer. So as the consortium, we're looking, across everything, how do we address this new emphasis on decarbonization and, helping expand some of those regulatory environments or addressing some of those regulatory challenges kind of across things. But SEM is definitely an area where we're focused, as you all know. And so for those of you, some of you were at the CE Industry Partner meeting and were a part of this. Kevin and Rory can weigh in as well, as they sort of helped come up with some of these outcomes and the next steps with me. Kevin co-chairs the committee, as many of you know as well. But anyway, just starting at the top, it seems pretty straightforward, but it was good to get a consensus that supporting decarbonization through SEM is the right approach. The sort of the way Kevin framed it from the Northwest SEM Collaborative, people seem to agree with. That's the sort of that quote right there. Also, Rory spoke about the ISO 50001 Ready Navigator decarbonization guidance, as well as how DOE sees that in alignment with the ERP framework. And there was general support for that approach as sort of a starting point for incorporating decarbonization into the CE SEM minimum elements, that resource Chad described. And so as a next step, what we'll be doing, essentially Kevin, Rory, and I as a starting point, we'll crosswalk the SEM minimum elements, CE SEM minimum elements with 50,001 Ready Navigator, the guidance there, to draft a decarbonization addendum to the minimum elements. So you can see sort of what we think that looks like with the last bullet there, or what it will be intended to do. But again, this is something that we'll sort of start drafting between the three of us, share with the SEM committee, and then definitely seek broader input from all of you across the SEM community to make sure that it's appropriate, accurate, a good way to do things, and something that you all can support. Chad, do I have the timeline slide also?
Yes.
And so just in terms of, what the timeline for that looks like, hopefully get draft documents to the CEE's SEM committee kind of by Thanksgiving, and then the CEE SEM committee and CE member meeting, which unfortunately is not open to those of you who aren't members, we'll be meeting in Long Beach, California in January. And so the program administrator members will seek consensus on what all goes into decarbonization addendum, what the new initiative will look like. I know I've shared that with many of you, the draft initiative, and many of you have provided some comments. So we'll incorporate all of that into a new draft. Once the committee has consensus on what everything should look like, we'll send that out, share it with everyone for broader comment. And so I anticipate that'll be like by the end of January next year. And so I know many of you I already connect with individually, also go through the North American SEM Collaborative, which is a great way to make sure everybody can see things and comment. So if you haven't heard from me previously and you want to make sure that you are a part of this and can weigh in, my email's on this slide. But otherwise, definitely we'll be sharing it through this forum to the extent that I'm allowed to do that. But yeah, we definitely are looking for broad input to make sure this is something that everybody can use as appropriate for the program administrator side of things, which I guess hopefully I've emphasized that's where C is coming at this from, and SEM as an energy efficiency ratepayer funded energy efficiency program. But yeah, so that's the perspective and sort of the goal that we're trying to help achieve here. And if we will bring this ultimately to C's board for approval. Not that like the administrative details matter to everybody here, but essentially once it's signed off on, we can all use and promote the new addendum if that gets used. And so the hope is that that will be by next summer.
Outstanding, outstanding. I could definitely, it's very easy to imagine, again, for as helpful as the minimum elements have been in the SEM community and market, this addendum I can imagine could be a very, again, foundational and even and transformative really document for us to point towards. So thank you so much, Walker, for all that you and your committee do.
Absolutely, thanks.
Next up is Rory Schmick from Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, who will be sharing some additional things, some of the things he covered over the last hour, but some very exciting things that continue to evolve from Department of Energy.
Great, thanks, Chad. Yeah, really appreciate the opportunity to just share a brief update on how we're integrating decarbonization guidance into the Department of Energy's 50,001 Ready program, tools, and resources. As Chad mentioned, for those that joined the partner call just before this, you got a similar update from Peter Thurkelson, but as advertisers say, consumers need to hear a message 7 times before they're motivated to buy a product. So I guess we will be well on our way with this. So I think most people on the call are already well familiar with the Department of Energy's 50,001 Ready program, which was developed and launched just over 5 years ago to support U.S. organizations implement holistic, comprehensive energy management systems that align to the global ISO 50,001 standard, but without the cost of third-party audits. There's also a recognition component to the program. And it's worth mentioning, especially for all of our Canadian friends on the call, there is a Canadian 50,001 Ready program that's administered by Natural Resources Canada that offers similar tools and recognition for Canadian organizations. At the heart of the program is this online navigator tool, which breaks up that global standard into 25 discrete actionable tasks, each with its own accompanying set of guidance to help organizations implement. In 2021, we began the process of integrating decarbonization management guidance directly into each of those 25 tasks, really to help organizations who are struggling with how to align their internal systems and processes to both improve their energy performance and achieve decarbonization goals that maybe were set at the corporate level, especially for their Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. At the same time, and kind of on a parallel track, really in support of the Biden-Harris administration's aggressive greenhouse gas reduction targets, the Department of Energy launched the Better Climate challenge, which essentially challenges U.S. organizations to set their own ambitious portfolio-wide emission reduction goals. Participating organizations commit to reducing their Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions by at least 50% in a 10-year period. And they're supported by a number of technical resources and assistance, including these recently published framework for emissions reduction planning, also referred to as ERP framework. These detailed guidance documents, there's a set for commercial buildings and another for industrial portfolios, are really designed to help organizations create like an actionable plan to identify solutions, prioritize measures, and lay out kind of a phased pathway to achieve deep emissions reductions. The framework is organized around 5 major milestones, starting with, of course, establishing an inventory and scope of work, all the way through to identifying and prioritizing specific measures. It really defines a structured planning process to achieve those greenhouse gas reduction targets that organizations have set for themselves. This is just, of course, scratching the surface. Really encourage you to visit the website, which I'll drop into the chat, download these documents and really dig into the frameworks. There's a lot of good information in here to unpack that I think you'll find useful. I also wanted to mention, and Peter mentioned it on the previous call, we're currently in the process of folding the ERP framework language directly into the corresponding Navigator task guidance for a seamlessly integrated tool. So stay tuned for that. With that, I'll wrap it up and hand it back to Chad.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Rory. And again, it's so wonderful of being in a call like this where we're having different perspectives brought in. And if you again are in this space, if you've been around SCM for a while, you can imagine how this ERP framework, the Navigator, alongside the Navigator platform, alongside these resources, from CE and ACEEE can provide value. So this is wonderful. And to bring us home, Kevin Wallace, a longtime SCM leader, and we'll be providing a couple of perspectives from a couple of organizations that he's heavily involved in. Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. And as Walker mentioned before, there was an industry partner meeting in Denver, and some of this material is the same if you were there. But it's also kind of what I'm seeing is this cross-pollination of sharing of ideas through these different committees, and things seem to be coming into alignment. So I'm really happy with where things are going, and even today, Chad, the opportunity to kind of talk about it in a new way. So within the Northwest Strategic Energy Management Collaborative, we have a SCM plus GHG work group, and again, I presented this in Denver. This is the evolution of what our messaging was, I guess, or our mission statement for the work group was. And as you can see, how much and how quick things have evolved, where we were wondering what was the gap between SCM and decarbonization, and talk about how it leads to carbon reductions, to being more explicit with SCM is now the foundation for achieving your broader carbon reduction goals beyond energy efficiency. So two of the things that we're working on within this work group is with the goal of promoting that last vision and mission statement. Now within the work group, we've worked on key messages for different audience that would need to be approached or sold on this concept, starting with the regulator all the way down to the implementer. Aligned with key messages, we're also creating a toolkit, and where I see a nice overlap is, the paper that Jonah spoke about is something that we're mentioning now, is in now the toolkit as a reference if you're going to sell these concepts. There's also another, I think, very important ACEEE paper that talks about the role that energy efficiency will play in a highly renewable utility space, and just substitute SEM wherever you read energy efficiency, and it's very relevant to then everything that we're doing here and the role SEM can play from a utility and energy supply perspective. I will say this, I'm not going to get into too many details. Or maybe the next slide, do I talk about, Chad? Thank you. Okay, just go back one for 1 second. Thank you. Kept it to 2 slides. I thought I had another one. I'm not getting into details here, but I'm going to make a plug for October 19th, Portland, the fall workshop of the Northwest SCM Collaborative. You all are invited. We will do a work group report out. This topic, SCM and decarbonization, will get discussed in some of the breakout sessions. And as you all know, there's an amalgamation in the Northwest Collaboratives amalgamating with the North American SCM Collaborative. Pam Burkle has been playing a key role in this work group with me, and she has a key role to play within North America SCM Collaborative. So these things are emerging and evolving to where I see this now is going forward, potentially this fall, if not early next year, being a North American-led work group with potentially expanded participation from outside of our region would be the goal. So again, plug for Portland in October to have a more fulsome conversation in person if possible and continue the conversation. The other item that I can speak quickly to.
Like everything everyone says.
All right. Continue. Are you frozen, Kevin? Oh no. Hoping Kevin's going to come back. He's going to be talking about basically what the ISO Technical Committee 301 for energy management and energy savings are working on. This group that he and I, respectively from the Canadian and United States organizations, have been working on alongside many other countries. I don't see Kevin. Kevin, are you back on?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll leave my video off. Maybe that was the problem, or it's just the IT systems here in my office. I heard, Chad, you were probably giving a little explanation on this.
Yeah, I just teed it. I didn't
press,
describe these things. I just said that we were working together on some things. Please go ahead.
Right. So yeah, Chad and I, as well as Peter Thurkelson and others that have been on the North American SCM Collaborative Leadership Team, are involved in this Technical Committee 301, which has responsibility for ISO 50001 on both sides of the border, which is great. So we're all seeking input to the development of 2 new documents that are called now extensions to 50001. And the goal, it's not like the addendum to the minimum elements in terms of what the minimum elements state, but if in terms of a requirements document, the intent would be they would be auditable and they would speak directly to how the energy management system is achieving decarbonization objectives and goals. And so that's starting now. It could be a year or 2 before it's actually finalized. The first one is, the energy management system piece around how energy management leads to decarbonization and the business practices and the business acumen that the organization needs to demonstrate. The second piece is around the math, the calculation. As you know, SEM, and it's a big topic, I think, for this committee and the Northwest Committee, is we focus so much on energy savings for so many years, but now we have to focus on carbon reduction and the accounting and the verification might not be aligned, and we need to understand that better. So I'll just leave it at that, Chad, and just glad we're having the same conversation and the conversations are aligning in all these different groups and initiatives, and things will continue to align going into next year, I think, even more. So thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Kevin. Very, very relevant, and again, even exciting. And at the end of this deck, at the end of the presentation, we will provide more information about the fall workshop in Portland that Kevin referenced. So we will then go into what's been happening from North American Collaborative on decarbonization. So at the SCM Summit this last July in Detroit, we covered a lot of very exciting things. A number of folks attended from across North America, the event, and but within the decarb area, we developed some initial attributes within different focus areas. These focus areas included policies and program design, curriculum, technical opportunities, and metrics. And so kind of basically going deeper and establishing what the current state is for each of these items, as well as some potential future states and next steps. So again, many of the folks I see here, even on the line, folks like Renee and many other folks that were there and contributed in very great ways to kind of kick that all off. So sorry, we came up with were basically kind of transformed that information into into document form. And so I'm just going to kind of show you really quickly what this looks like. So for each of these topics, a series of like kind of continuums, and so we have different leads for these, at least in this point, with Laura Griffiths, Pam Burkle, and Dinah Show, working on each of these items, and we'll be facilitating breakouts for us here in just a moment. But for each of these things, for example, in metrics, there's different aspects of how decarb would be integrated into SCM metrics, or how to think about that whole process, describing what the current state is, and then laying out a potential roadmap to address and elevate each of these areas over time. So that's the general idea. We are going to be using Mural, and so Laura is going to talk us through how to use Mural here today. So Laura, are you there?
Yep.
Great.
Yeah. Hey, Chad, thanks.
You bet.
Yes, for those of you who have not used Mural before or a similar whiteboard tool, it's pretty simple. Basically, it's just a giant whiteboard where you can do things like zoom in and out, view what other people have written, where you can collaborate. And we're going to show you a demo here in just a minute. But just keep in mind, once you get in Mural, there's a couple key areas to pay attention to. In the bottom right corner of your screen, you'll see this mini map or zoom area. That's where you can use the Mural app to zoom in and out. Okay. And then off to the side, there's a very handy tool called the outline. So we've got different areas set up in this outline for each of the breakout rooms. Coaches will drop you directly into one of those areas. But if you zoom around and get lost and you want to get back there, just use that toggle at the top of the screen, that kind of pink square. That'll open up your outline again, and you can jump back to wherever you want to get to within the Mural. Let's hit the next screen here. So as mentioned, you can use that little area in the lower right-hand corner to zoom in and out, or you can use your trackpad, your mouse pad, or your wheel to zoom in and out as well, or to move around the screen. Okay. Once we're in Mural, we'll be using sticky notes, and there will be a little toolbar to your left. And we'll just place sticky notes near items that we have comments or feedback on in any of the areas that we're working on. So Chad, if you want to go ahead and click on that link there at the bottom, we'll just real briefly go into one just for a second.
As we're getting into this, you will all see, okay, so I'm visiting Duck, which is very exciting.
Yeah, we are going to ask that you put your name in there if you can, so we can follow up and have discussions with folks after. So Chad is a duck. Now that he's in there, as you'll see, he was dropped right into the room for policy and programs. If that's a little small to read, just like mentioned before, you can zoom in and out, and then you can just click to your left on the sticky note and add a sticky note. If you're really enthusiastic about something, there's even icons there where you could add a star or something like that, but sticky notes are just fine to leave feedback, and then we'll use this for our report out afterwards. Any questions or?
Thank you so much for the Mural orientation. So what we'll be doing is dropping the links to, okay, there we go, great. The links to these, Diana just dropped them into the different murals that we'll be using for the different, in each of the breakout rooms. So before you click on the links, so you can look at that, you can see the different groups. So we've got policy in the chat. So we've got policies. Okay, you can do this all at the same time. Get back to here. Right. So group one is policies and program design. Diana will be leading that group. So if you're interested in the policies and program designs that will support, again, increasing decarbonization aspects in our programs, that's where to go. If you're interested in M&V modeling, where GHG and counting will fit within all these things, how our tracking tools and so on will all kind of work, or supporting savings claims within that. Laura Griffiths will be leading group 2. And that's, again, the metrics, clicking the metrics link in the chat. Pam Burkle will be leading the technical opportunities. So this is looking at how what the opportunities are and how do we find them and demonstrate them, like show them as far as how they stack up within our opportunity registers, towards energy or GHG goals that people have. And then lastly, I'll be leading the group 4 on curriculum. So the curriculum link in the chat as well. And so that one will be looking at the content that we provide in the workshops and that we coach people on. That again would need to have much more GHG content as a part of that. So so think about which groups you want to go into. I'm going to launch. I guess what I suggest is click on the link for the mural that you want to go into first. So do that now. And then while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get the breakouts turned on. So you'll have a breakout message that will appear. You will choose your own group within the breakout. If for some reason you get click the leave button of the entire process, if you mean to leave a breakout and you instead actually do it incorrectly and leave the entire process, please just click the Zoom link to come back into to this group, and we can get you back into one of those, into the appropriate breakout room. So I'm launching the breakout rooms 1, 2, 3, 4. Let you choose your own room. So again, group 1, you can see in the thing. Group 1 is policies and programs. 2 is measurement metrics. 3 is technical opportunities. 4 is curriculum. All right, so now you should have a message that has appeared from Zoom about breakout rooms starting. And what we're going to do is we'll go into these for 10 minutes. It'll be a fast pace. We'll review what's inside of them and start basically reacting and putting some more sharing insights about what you think is not there that should be, or superfluous, or other additional thoughts you'd like to add. So I'm opening all rooms. So you should be able to start assigning yourself in.
Chad, where do we select which group we want to join for the Zoom?
So you should, a message should, yeah, people are doing it. So simple.
There's a pop-up at the bottom that says breakout rooms.
Great, thanks, Clay. So message.
I don't see that.
Hey, this is Melissa Holting. I'm in the browser because the old federal government doesn't like Zoom that much. So maybe the functionality doesn't work as well. I don't know if other folks using the browser version of Zoom are having problems.
I will try. If you would like to, I can move you into a group. I think myself.
Policy would be where I'd want to go.
You go to policy, okay, Melissa. And nice to see you.
And Chad, I don't know how to get into my conversation. I'm in the mural, but I don't know how to get into the Zoom conversation.
I'm gonna set you up right now. Wait, group 3. Here you go. I think.
Okay, yeah, there it is. Thanks.
Right. If anyone else is having, I still see a number of folks that have not been assigned yet. I assume that's because you've not been paying attention. Joking half, or maybe you have a technical issue. So if you would need help, please just tell me right now and I can move you into the right room. Okay.
Chad, I'm in the same boat. This is Dustin Schneider. Could you send me to curriculum, please?
You bet.
Thank you.
You bet. Who else? Kevin? No, okay. Jay, do you need help?
No, I just ended up in the same one as Nick, so I'm going to go somewhere else now.
Okay.
We did not coordinate in advance.
Oh, geez. That's the whole thing, guys. Let's see. Lori from Clark. Lori Froelich, do you need help being assigned into a group? How about Lonnie? Do you need help? Let's just see. By the way, Lonnie Pete. Marty from ComEd, do you need help being assigned into a breakout room? Or Virginia?
Chad, can you put me in policy? This is Glenda.
You bet.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, there goes Glenda. Leah, do you need help getting into a breakout room? I'm going to put you in measurement and metrics.
This is Virginia. Can you put me in metrics?
Done.
Thank you.
You bet. Other folks? Okay. I'm gonna make a few other executive decisions here, assign a few other folks, a few other breakouts.
Chad, this is Matt Jensen. Can you put me in metrics also, please?
You bet. Lori, I'm going to put you in. Curriculum. Evan, I'm going to put you in policies. Okay, and then I'm going to go into room for myself. Hello, sorry for the delay to get over to the room. I was just in wrapping everyone else up. Welcome, we're in the curriculum room. And so does anybody not have the link to that mural? That's a CSI, by the way. Anybody not have the link to the mural? Okay, great. So then you should be able to see it. I am going to flip over to it as well. So the idea here is I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to read it. Sit quietly and read. And then when you're done, in Zoom, please do the thumbs up on your emoji or whatever. And then, yeah, does anybody not follow? You know what to do. You can read the content. If you want to start reacting and putting sticky notes on there, feel free. Absolutely go ahead and start doing that. But we want to give you the space to kind of like look at it, reflect, and provide thoughts. Are there things that are missing that should be there? Things are like, why is that there? Or this seems a little aggressive, or why are we moving faster? There's space to add more content below if you want to put some more aspects of the curriculum kind of content idea. So with that, I'll let you read and reflect. And then in about 4 minutes, I will start asking for folks to start sharing thoughts verbally. All right. I've seen some outstanding. Well, first of all, if you're watching and watching all the arrows moving around, it can get be kind of dizzying. But it's very fun, and it's fun watching you all interact with this content to kind of yeah, absorb it and think about it. And again, a lot of this stuff was again initiated. Well, frankly, even some of it was initiated at the SCM Summit last year, and then has been built on over time by a number of folks, including at this last SCM Summit. What do folks don't have to weigh in verbally, but if you'd like to share some thoughts, what do we think about what we see here? Yeah, things that are exciting, things that are intimidating, things that are puzzling. What do we think? Any brave souls?
Yeah, and I think that maybe I put on there digging deeper into scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. I mean, that's a resource that already exists, and I think that you could start out with scope 1 and 2, and most people that's where they kind of stop. But as somebody gets deeper into SEM, maybe we could start digging a little deeper into scope 3 and help them to see what their impacts are on a deeper level.
That's a great call, Karen. Nice. That's excellent.
Kind of building on that, one of the things I was thinking about is, there's so much content out there. Like, what do we as SCM practitioners, what's our role in the kind of curating or presenting that to, building owners, operators, and use customers? And then there's going to be a huge range of knowledge. Like, some people aren't even going to know what scope 1 or 2 is, right? So what's like the baseline that we start with? How do we bring everyone to a common level of understanding? Yeah, that's 2 points on it. Yeah, that the content in most of our SEM programs now has been kind of that's been figured, that question's kind of been answered to how to meet them where they are, and to then have to ask it in a different way, or to think about other content that's just not been in our scope or wheelhouse. That's really smart.
I think I was seeing that comment. I just liked it too, but I was also thinking about it from like the perspective of, I think the next road down is talking about like the better climate challenges and other resources out there. There are a lot of resources out there, and we're going to see a lot more. And so which ones are we curating to integrate into the standard STEM materials would be wonderful to have consensus around.
Yeah, that's great. To your point, like back to what Rory was showing earlier, we showing the Navigator platform, which many folks are starting to play with, but there's no firm that uses it for every program. They use it for certain things. And then now with that ERP tool, like, again, where do these things fit and not fit? Where do they provide value? Are they certain kinds of customers? Like, where are the kind of decision points, maybe? Yeah, how and when to use these different things? Because like you said, there's so many things out there. That's great.
I like the voice of the customer phrase in there. I'm not exactly sure what people are asking for in this space. My customers are on the receiving end of SEM, but they have some understanding of how it relates to carbon, but what is it that they really are looking for from these programs, and how can SEM adapt to deliver that kind of new language or new learnings?
That's great. Thanks, Michael. We are getting close to the end of our time, so I'm going to leave the room, and I think then I'll close down the rooms. And so I think if you leave the room yourself, or I will force you out in a minute. But thank you all for participating. We wanted to have you get to reflect on it. If you are a member of the collaborative, you'll definitely have a chance to provide much more feedback and be heavily involved in shaping where things go and how these resources and so on get developed. So thank you so much for participating in this breakout. So then with that, I'll peel out, and we'll see you all in the large group in a moment.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks. All right. And I think then, hello, many folks are starting to come back. I'm going to go to the breakouts and then broadcast a message that we're going to close the rooms in 60 seconds. Okay. That. In the meantime, welcome back everyone, especially from the best group of the entire thing, the curriculum group. Yeah, that's great. If, by the way, yeah, for those of you in the curriculum group, best group of the group of the day, if you did see, there should be links to then click on the other aspects of this. So Taylor or Molly or Dustin, if you're interested in other areas like metrics or so on, you should be able to click around or zoom out and look at the other areas and yeah, kind of explore around. And again, same thing, see what you think is great or what's missing or so on. Okay, so we should have folks rolling back in here in just a couple of seconds. All right, welcome back, everyone. Nice work. I'm going to share my screen as we get into wrapping up this outstanding session. Nice. A big shout out to my fellow group leads, Pam, Laura, and Diana. We're not going to have actually time for a breakout report out. But we do want to say, yeah, we appreciate all of your participation time in these breakouts. Everyone, do spend a few minutes if you do have time to kind of explore around and weigh in on different areas. We will be taking more substantive kind of next step movements on these different areas. Probably making some form of a roadmap that will be again leveraging with these tools and resources from CEE and ACEEE and so on. This would probably be fleshed out, like Kevin said, by the North American wide decarb working group, and maybe that might be augmented also by some North American like dedicated research by the North American Collaborative as well. That roadmap would be then provided to regulators, perhaps, or to program administrators, implementers. And this diagram to the right shows like if we kind of blew out some of the concepts within those different continuums, that we could basically chart. We could basically chart a single program and say, okay, how are we doing? Maybe our policies or something we can't really affect, but we're doing pretty well in design and great in tools. Expertise, though, we've got to bone up on what our GHG knowledge is for within our program, and so that using this kind of framework will help us figure out where we are now and where to go next. So very exciting stuff. In the interest of time, I'm going to do the quick share outs on, or actually maybe I'll have you, Pam, if you could do the quick snapshot.
Sure.
Membership.
Yeah, so the membership committee has been meeting weekly for a while now, getting ready for our recruiting season coming up. We've decided to change membership to a calendar year membership. So you're going to be hearing from us very soon this fall about membership for 2024. If you're a current member, you'll hear from us with some information. We've got some new benefits to talk about. And if you aren't yet a member and are interested, you can speak with me or others on the committee. We've got, I think all 4 members are on this call. Chad, of course, is here. Greg Baker and Shelley Jensen are all here today. So there's some new, some changes to membership benefits, some working group benefits that are going to be taking place as we merge with Northwest SEM Collaborative. We'll be getting some working groups going coming out of that. So 2024 is really our transition year with a kind of complete transition by 2025. We've also added for new members, a breakfast before the SEM Summit with the leadership team to just hear more about the collaborative. We're also including options, kind of lower priced options for small organizations. So there are a couple tiers of that we'll be offering this year to make it more accessible for folks. And that's a summary, and it's going to be a good year. It's an exciting year as we integrate with Northwest.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Pam. With respect to that integration, and again, all this is all recorded, and so you can access this slide deck later on. There are some great things happening with respect to that merger. And there's a transition committee that's managing a lot of that. One of the big exciting things is the working groups will become a North American thing that's administrated by the North American. There may still be regional focus groups on certain regional topics, but things like emissions addressing GHGs will definitely be something that's going to be tackled at North American Y, which is really, really wonderful. Upcoming events, like Kevin said, there is the Northwest Fall Workshop. If you can make it to Portland for the Thursday, October 19th, in-person session, please do so. There's more information here on the SEMHub website about the collaborative and where you can register. It'll be outstanding, and so please do make it if you can. All right, we'll have a quarterly member roundtable for members only. This virtually in November. We'll have a webinar open to everyone on SCM successes in December. And then lastly, do plan for the SCM Summit in person at Pacific Grove, California, outside of Monterey, one of the prettiest places to ever do an SCM event, as a part of the ACEEE Building Summer Study. So plan for that. Put in your request for your budget and travel. We'll hope to see you at one or more of all of those events. Thank you all so much. Please keep up the great work you're all doing. The leadership team here, you can see them all called out here, extend their best, and they do put in a ton of time to make all these things happen. So thank you all. Thank you to all of them. And thank you to all your time. If you're interested in keeping up the decarb work, look for some more information coming up from us soon for the members to be involved. So thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks,
everyone.
Chad.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
You're all.